So this is something that we should think about, the hybridity. This is a photograph taken in January of 1919. And these are people waiting to see procession of Emperor Gojong's funeral. Like he passed away in January. And people are waiting to see. This is near Jongno too, you know, like the funeral procession. But look at, do you see these items are displayed on the windows? Do you recognize what these are? These are the hats. So this is a hat store, one of the most popular hat store in Jongno. And then this is a slightly modernized building. So you have that terrace on the second floor and a lot women. Do you see like a predominant women are standing here? Like women are not supposed to be on the streets with men. So women are all on the second floor and the men are standing outside. But there are different degrees of modernity, right? Some people have impeccable overcoat. January is cold, right? Overcoat and hat and everything. Versus some people have that white durumagi and then the hat. And then if you see here, the women overwhelmingly all in traditional clothes. And in Korea, it is customary to show up in white clothes for funerary. So that's why you see everybody is usually in their white colored clothes. These are different types of hybridity, but during the colonial period, there are two types of people who almost always wore these impeccable European suits. One are Japanese collaborators, right? Like people working in the Japanese bank, collaborators, or Japanese government offices, or, so that's one group. And then another group would be independence fighters. So independence fighters. So people like An Chang-ho and his members, they are working in Shanghai in order to maintain or in order to regain the independence for the Republic of Korea. So right after the funeral of Emperor Gojong, there was a very patriotic mood going on among Korean citizens. So all these people, they dressed impeccable European suit. Most of them were made by tailors in Shanghai. Shanghai also had a lot of tailor shops. And they showed up like this because they have to do business in Shanghai, so that they could not maintain their Korean identity. And you know, this way, it was more beneficial for them to conduct business. And some of them, especially An Chang-ho, this man, he immigrated to the United States. He was one of the first, how can I say, legal immigrant to the United States. Very interesting background. And then, but when they were imprisoned later in 1930s, and then An Chang-ho, for example, the same man, he came out of the prison in their hybrid durumagi fashion. It's more like his patriotism. But An Chang-ho, who migrated to the United States early in 1910s, he's often shown in this California workers' clothing. This is how orange pickers would dress up in California. He spoke English really, really well. He went to a high school established by American missionaries. So he spoke English well. When he arrived in California by the boat to San Francisco, he was working in this Southern California farm. So these are orange trees. And he tied his pants like this so that it's easier to work. And this is his family photograph in California. So both husband and wife are dressed in 1910s American style. The son here, I think he's still alive, and he's an actor. His name is Philip An. And then the youngest daughter here, I think the youngest daughter here, she is also alive, and she became nurse for U.S. Army. Anyhow, so these are a group of Korean people migrated to California in 1910s. And you can see that some women still have their traditional clothes, but all of the men are impeccably dressed in the Californian way to live. But their what do I want to say? Their human rights, right, or their work conditions were really harsh. They were mainly peddlers or farm workers, but eventually they will send their children to school, and they are all Christians. They are only Christians from Korea. They went to their church. And same thing with the Chinese immigrants. So Chinese immigrants in Chinatown, San Francisco, as you see in these small photographs, they maintained their ethnic identity with the queue. Remember, like that braided long hair, and then the workers' clothes from China. But then railroad workers working in the West Coast, going to the East Coast, these railroad workers, they sometimes adopted European suit, and this is actually one of those holidays when they are showing up in a photo studio. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 have nice, Western dress versus probably man in the middle. He just arrived, so he still have that traditional clothes. And these are Chinese field workers washing and packing in Riverside Church. So what I'm trying to say is, some of you also experienced that transnational immigration as a child. If you didn't experience immigration, then your parents or grandparents experienced it. And these migration, like a global migration to another country, was also one element for people back in East Asia to adopt westernized clothes. They have a more acceptance of the situations, even though they are not working in the government, right? Like that is what is expected of migrants in other countries. And in order to be more in tune with the flow of the world affairs, people living in the rural areas or countryside back in East Asia, they are gradually adopting the Western mode of clothes. But it is expensive. You should not forget that economic ramification of European. So it's not that you wanted it and you create on your own. Like, it's affordability. You have to buy those things, or these are very expensive. It's a conspicuous affordability. It's a conspicuous consumption in a way. It requires a lot of family sacrifice. Like instead of family members getting a new clothes once a year, the father will get the entire suit, and family members should wear like a hands down clothes or something. So something to think about, like affordability, the privileged position of male members versus female members. So these are again Chinese field workers working in Riverside, California.